So, welcome to episode 7 of the 24-Hour Hustle Show, and today we got special guest BrIan Burley, and we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, mentorship, and his book, Yngblkpgh. So, welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Anthony Freeze, and I am the host of the 24-Hour Hustle Show. And today, once again, we got special guest BrIan Burley here, and we're going to get into a lot of different things, a lot of different topics, especially his new book, Yngblkpgh. Had the great opportunity to get together with him, and I want to give him the opportunity to introduce himself, give his background, and we're going to get it rocking.
Let's do it,
so
man.
So what's going on, man?
Not too much, Chief. It's a good day out here in the city, so no complaints, man. No complaints. Still running around. Not a bad thing.
Got you. So what's been going on for the past couple days?
Oh, man. Whether it's event planning, whether it's securing funding, whether it's getting large orders of books filled in short amount of times and short windows. Just staying busy, always just trying to find a way to keep everything moving forward and keep everything pushing forward with the work. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the big things for me that, you know, I think a lot of people get stuck into a space of kind of pomp and circumstance. And I'm like, look, if it's about the work, I'm there.
Right.
Like, so we're trying to put some stuff forward in some different avenues and kind of diversify what we got going on in some different spaces that are going to make a big difference for the city too. So,
all right, cool,
exciting stuff.
Awesome. So hopefully we'll be able to get into some more details.
A little bit, Got some things we got to keep tight-lipped on, but you know, some stuff we could definitely share on because I think it's important too, man.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So like we do in every episode, you know, give us a little bit more of your background, where you started from, your origin story. Cool. If you got like any siblings that helped you with your upbringing or your mindset or anything like that. You know, I always just try to figure out what are the things that inspired somebody and what are some of the things that help form somebody's mindset. So take us back to the beginning and your story and how everything started off.
Yeah, man. So I'm born and raised right here, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Probably about 10 minutes down Penn Avenue. You make a left up through Wilkinsburg. Like, I grew up in a little nestled spot in between Homewood, East Hills, and Wilkinsburg. Right. Pittsburgh Public Schools my whole life. Proud graduate of Shenley High School. Sad to
Same here.
Listen, man.
Shenley alumni here.
You gotta know what it is. But you know, did that while I was there, and you know, Pittsburgh Public Schools did right by me. You know what I mean? I ended up playing ball while I was in school and going to undergrad down in the state of Kentucky, down at Morehead State University.
Now, real quick, when you say ball, football or basketball?
Football. Okay. Yeah, I played football in college, and an injury. I'm gonna say an industry. An industry did end it, but an injury ended that time. But at the same time, one of the really good things about that is, you know, I'd say without I'm sure argument, my first couple of years I majored in football. You know what I mean? But after that injury, that then put me in a space where I had to really focus on my grades and my school and my future and all that type of stuff. Because when you have one of those kind of sudden changes like that, it puts you in a different sort of space,
right?
Mentally, you know what I mean? So I had some different things that I got involved in. I got involved in student government. I got involved in a lot of other stuff on campus. I started up the Black Student Union down there at school, which we called the Minority Leadership Caucus.
And real quick, where did you go to college?
I went to Morehead State.
Morehead State.
Yeah. And before I sat in the state of Kentucky, I'm sure there would be plenty of people who wouldn't know where that is. You know what I mean? Like, my whole time I was in college, it was like, oh, you went to Morehouse? Oh, you went to Morgan?
Yeah.
No, and no. I wish on both.
Right, yeah.
But no. But went down there and got the degree that I was down there to get, man. You know what I mean? So
what did you say you studied in?
I got a degree in management.
Management, okay.
Yeah, it was probably a silly degree, to which I always knew that I was going to need probably a master's degree as well to kind of secure stuff further with it. But going back to my childhood too, man, like, I was always that kid who was, you know, selling candy on the bus, you know, trying to find a way to trying to hustle my parents for grades to get video games
right.
or something like that, right? Like there was always something that I was trying to do and trying to push forward towards. Fast forward into post-college life, I ended up working at PNC Bank. Am I allowed to say the name of the bank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. I was came through their leadership development program and was the youngest branch manager in the entire company, taking over a 10-person branch where the next closest person in age to me was 10 years older.
Wow.
Right? So that was.
So how old were you at that point in time?
I was 23.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
That's a
23
big
years
deal.
old. Yeah, and ended up doing that, and it was hard work. It was hard work, even getting people to buy into the stuff that you're talking about. But I always say that every experience that I had professionally prepared me for the space that I'm in now, right? Like every single thing. Like I pulled back on a lot of different stuff, but honestly, in that space, I burnt myself out. But I always knew that I wanted to go back and get my MBA, which was something that I was always kind of sold on. It was just a matter of timing, right? And so I ended up starting to apply, studying for my GMAT, ended up getting a full scholarship to go to the University of Pittsburgh.
Awesome.
Yeah, went through their 1-year MBA program, and I'm sure they're going to kick my butt for saying this, but I want them to hear me all the way through when I say this. It's a terrible idea until the day you graduate. Then it's a great idea. And it's probably one of the better decisions that you've ever made. But,
right.
The Katz Graduate School of Business did a lot of good for me and put me in a position to do the stuff that I wanted to do, which was work in healthcare consulting. And so I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years and traveling all around the country with it too, right? And during that entire time, from starting with PNC, and it's never stopped, the one consistent with that too, and we had my wife and my son were in here too, and my niece and everybody else. We had the whole family in here. But one of the really cool things that's never stopped in that entire time with all those changes that have been going on in my life personally was the commitment to mentoring that I had through working with the 100 Black Men in Western Pennsylvania, running our student sessions every week. And, we talked to them about things that they might not necessarily get a lot of in school, right? Like we talked about financial literacy. We talked about public speaking.
Right.
We talked about how to present yourself online.
Right.
Social media etiquette.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Those are big these days.
Big things, man. Important things. You don't want kids getting to a space where they're done before they even get a chance to get out of whatever they're doing. And but what was even crazier is I always tell people this story. The sessions were from 12 to 2. And I would never leave before 2:45, right? Because the other piece of the session that was most important was the after, right? Like I would get all of my kids, and I've had kids that started with me, and this is 6 through 12 grade, 6 through 12 program, and they started with me in 6th grade, and now they're in college.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, it makes me feel old, but
right?
I'll take it, man, because I'm proud of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And seeing them after, right, and that was when I would have my friends come in, right, and talk to them about the work that they do, and have these other different people come in and have them see these people and get this representation of people who look like them that are doing amazing, incredible things.
Right.
But, it was hilarious. One of my students one day, and I call her my accountability partner, because if I wasn't on my A game during that session while I was teaching them, afterwards I knew I was going to have to answer to her. Like that's just, she was my accountability partner. Like that's just who she was, right? Yeah. But she came up to me after a session one day and said, and I was like, "Oh shoot, what I do?" You know what I mean? Like what? I didn't bring my A game. I thought I was popping today. I thought I did good. And she's like, and this was just an honest moment, and I'm going to paraphrase the conversation, but she said, B, we see you, right? Like we see you, we see your friends when you bring them in. But unfortunately, and they're inspiring while they're here. But unfortunately, once we leave out of these doors, then they're gone. Right. Right. And we're gone. And they could give us the most motivation in the world, but ultimately we go back out into that world of social media and the stuff that we see on the news about people who look like us and everything else that we have going on and kind of fighting against us, and it gets hard. Right. Like to really believe and to have that. And my mother also is an English teacher. Both of my parents are educators. But so words matter to me. Like words have always mattered. And one of the words that she used was hope. Like it gets hard to continuously have that hope. And right then and there, that puts me into action mode, right? Because I think hope's the second most powerful word in the human language.
What's the number one to you?
Love. Call me a sucker for love. I'm cool with that. But
Ain't nothing wrong with love.
No, I mean, but you got to understand the thing with love too is I've seen people do incredibly, incredibly good things for it, like change their whole entire life, right? Like change everything they were. They could have been a terrible person prior to. And then I've also seen people do really, really, really bad stuff for it too, right? Like, so to me, love is the only single word that's more powerful than hope to me, because hope, we don't even think of what it means to not have hope, right? Like, I remember the first question I got asked when I was back in Liberty Elementary School, Pittsburgh Public Schools, all that, and it was, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that question in general and in conversation is hopeful in nature.
Right.
Like, it's, you got to think about the future, and if our kids, if they can't get past today, they don't even have the, I don't want to say the wherewithal, but they don't even have the ability to think about their future or what they want to be in 5-10 years, right? Like, they got to worry about right now.
Right.
So part of what we wanted to do with the work that I'm doing is kind of show that representation and present hope, and present hope that looks like them.
Right.
And to me, that was what was most important with a lot of this work and everything else that we got going on.
Right.
So.
And that's awesome. That's one of the great things that I love about Yngblkpgh, the book that you wrote and everything, and all the different people that you have involved in. And we're definitely going to talk about it some more. Cool. But before we do that, getting into the beginning, one of the first things that you also said was you sold candy and things like that on the bus and things like that. So you were into entrepreneurship, and you said you had the mindset for that. So what were some of the things early on that enticed you or made you want to pursue entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur for yourself?
Every job I've had, I've always found sales to be a big piece of it, right? Like whether.
So you were in the sales from the gate.
Yeah,
okay.
Man. Like that's, and I think that part of it goes to my personality. I think part of it goes to your demeanor. Part of it goes to a lot of these other different pieces. But if I have something that I want you to have it, I can know that I can kind of this gap that I got here can kind of talk you into wanting to have it too, right? Like you're going to want to need it after we talk about it, right? In some way, shape, or form, because ultimately that was kind of the thing, right? Like I was raised incentive based, right? Like I was that kid. I was that kid who, like, my mom, and like I said, I had 2 educators as parents, but my mom also knew that I was an athlete growing up. So like, the same way you entice an athlete with incentives in their contract, my mom kind of enticed me in life with that same type of thing, right? Like, you give me 20 A papers, then we'll go and get a video game or get some shoes or whatever else the situation was. So I kind of wanted to put myself in that sort of space too, where it's like, all right, maybe I don't get those 20 A's, but I'm gonna get them anyway. Yeah. But what if I want 2 pair of shoes? Right. Right. So I'm gonna go and do that myself. Right. And that was kind of where a lot of it came from, more than anything else too. So it was just kind of that get up and go and kind of supplying a need. Right. You know what I mean? Like, even at the simplest, most easy levels, right? Sometimes people just want to talk, or they just want candy. So if you got the candy and they got money, then you can get the money, right? Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science. And I even remember at a time where instead of getting shoes and video games, I asked my mom to go and get the candy for me. Right. Right. Like, that was the new hustle, right? Like, I don't just want something that I can wear. No, I want you to buy this stuff so I don't got to spend my money on it to sell this product to other people. Right. So that was kind of the fun piece about it too, and just kind of looking back on that. Like, my mom talks to me now because this entrepreneur thing is life, right? And she was like, I kind of saw this coming, probably before you did, but I kind of saw this coming. So it's always cool to kind of have those conversations and relive some of those memories from childhood. Yeah. So. And what was, like, your relationship with, like, your parents? You say they were both educators, and because obviously they had a huge influence on your life. The biggest. I think it's crazy because, I always talked about, and it was funny, I was born, me and my sister are 12 years apart. Okay. She was going to college when I was going to kindergarten. So for a long time, our relationship, we just didn't have a lot to relate on. Right. So it was kind of, it was the age gap more than anything else. But, I was always around my parents, and I was always around my friends. Like, my friends are my brothers. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, I always tell people, I'm happy that I came when I did, and my parents were kind of tapped out on kids, because if they had a sibling, it'd be hard to match up to my friends. And they always keep me motivated. They always keep me pushing, and that's kind of our interchangeable role with each other, right? Is keeping each other pushing forward, and they challenge me.
Right.
You know, and having people like that in your corner, it doesn't get better. But with my parents, they just always, they pushed. You know what I mean? And they wanted me to see, all right, do you like this? You know, and then they instilled a lot of essential stuff, right? Like, I don't quit. You know, like with whatever is going on. Like, I know when something's done, but I won't quit.
Right.
I'm not afraid to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's essentially, when you talk about two traits of an entrepreneur, that I think either you got or you don't, you know, and that to me was two big important pieces of it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and some stuff was kind of self-taught in a lot of different ways because, you know, our parents also grew up in a different generation than we did.
Right.
Right? Like, when you got that one job and you got that good job,
You stayed there
you
for 40 plus
stayed,
years.
right? Like, and you stuck it out.
Yeah.
Good, bad, indifferent, green, purple, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But they, my life has been different.
Yeah.
And now it's gotten to a point where they see the results of the work that I've done, right? Like, and they're starting to respect, and not to say that they didn't before, but they respect the work as it's going and as it's happening, and everything else is going on too. So it's a really good feeling to get to see them see this thing through as well with me.
Right. And one of the interesting things with you being an entrepreneur and having parents who are educators, I know that for a lot of entrepreneurs, they feel like the school system isn't for them. So what was it like with your take and also with you going to Kratz Business School? What was your or what's your thought process on education and going to school and being in the school system, being an entrepreneur? And do you feel like going to school for business is the right move for someone?
I'm a proponent of education, right?
Right.
Like, I don't necessarily believe that it's something that is required for everyone, but I'm also someone who believes that the more it's floors, right? Like, me getting my MBA was a conversation with me and my mom.
Okay.
And my wife, right? Like, where it was like, all right, now you got something that you can fall back on, go do this for a while and save up enough money and put enough fail safes in your plan, and then go out and go do what you want to do, right? Like, that was part of the plan the whole time. But that, to me, one of the big important pieces of all of that too, with having parents who were in education and who had the same job, it was just kind of, you know, education is important to me.
Absolutely.
It always
Education
has been,
definitely
it
is
always
important.
will be. Like, I always believe, and I will tell my kids until I'm blue in the face, you implement floors, right? With every degree longer. Now, do I think you can do it without them? Yeah. It's a lot of people who do it without them.
Oh yeah,
But
especially in this day and age.
Exactly. Like, I don't think it's necessary for everyone. But I do believe that with additional credentials that you do, you know, you can get yourself into different rooms, right? The people who value those traditional credentials set the room up to make it so that people can't get into certain rooms unless they have those credentials, right? So, like, if you have them, and on top of that, you have a great idea, and on top of that, you do great work, and on top of that, you're a hard worker, and on top of that, you aren't willing to give up, you can do a lot, you know, and I think that's a big thing too. But yeah, I'm a proponent of education. I believe in it. I stand by it. You know, even if I didn't know what I wanted to be when I came out of undergrad, I knew who I was as a person, you know, and I'm sure I could have got that experience another type of way, but ultimately I got it that way, and I'm cool with that.
Right.
So.
Cool. So one of the things that I always kind of think about, and I've come across this in listening to other conversations about entrepreneurship and things like that. Do you think someone wanting to be an entrepreneur, or do you think can someone be born an entrepreneur, or do you think entrepreneurship can be taught to become an entrepreneur? Like, what's your take on someone wanting to be an entrepreneur? Do you think it's something you got to be born with, or can it be taught?
I think it can be taught, but I think it's more about breaking down your self-imposed barriers, right? Like, I don't think I would have been successful as an entrepreneur 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, just flat out, right? Like, as a full-time entrepreneur.
And why is that?
Just my work ethic.
Okay.
Right? Like, it takes things that you have to make sure that you're willing to do.
Right.
Right? Like, the biggest of those is work.
Absolutely.
Like, it's all on you.
Right.
Like, you know, like, I liked having a corporate job because I knew that whether I took off for 2 weeks or whether I was there every single day until 7 o'clock in the morning and then start back over at 9, that check was coming.
You still get paid.
Yeah, like I was getting paid. That was what was going to happen. But I think that I don't necessarily know if it's something that I think you can be born with hustle.
Okay.
But I also think hustle can manifest itself a lot of different ways. But I do think that if you have an idea, there's a certain level of crazy that's in every entrepreneur, and a certain level of unadulterated boldness.
Right.
Right. To say like, hey, this thing doesn't exist. I'm going to go create it.
Right.
To a lot of people, that's crazy. That's not normal to think that way, to think I'm the one that is going to be the one who's going to do that. Right. Right? Like that takes that boldness, I don't think every entrepreneur is born with it. Right. I don't. But I do think it can be taught, and I do think that it can be fostered, and I do think that it can be grown. And sometimes it's with just going and doing. You know what I mean? Like the biggest thing to me with it being an entrepreneur is you got to be a doer.
Oh yeah,
like
it takes work.
It takes work. You have to be a doer at every step of everything. You know what I mean? Because stuff doesn't stop because you decide you want to go on a venture by yourself. You know what I mean? Like you got to do it at every step. So.
Yeah, because one of the things that I noticed with like people who want to be entrepreneurs, like they have like this start-stop mentality. No. Like they have a lot of things that they start and then they stop. No. And you got to be consistent with it, and you absolutely got to have the mindset to put in the work. Like one of the people that I follow a lot is Gary Vee.
Yeah.
And
I was watching him this morning.
Yeah, I watch him all the time. And I think one of the things that I come across was, pretty much just saying something along the lines of, if you don't love the process, you already lost.
You already lost.
You know what I mean?
Like it's funny, and I don't say it as a complaint, but I say it to let people know, right? Like this was my 10 o'clock at night through 3 o'clock in the morning project. Right. Right? Like, because it was bigger than me. It wasn't about making my name into this thing that people turned into whatever they would turn into. Right? It was about, I saw a need, and I felt like I was the one who could make something like this happen. So I set it up in my mind, and then also once it got but so far, I couldn't flop on it. Right. Right. Like I had my personal brand is now at stake. Yeah. Like I'm married, my wife's personal brand is now at stake. My family's brand is at stake. So I got to see this thing all the way through. Right. Right. And it's even funny. Like I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they were like, "Have you seen the impact? Like, is your head still down so much that you haven't really even been able to see it?" And I'm like, I'm working. I'm working, and that's the part for me where I'm like, all right, how do we go to the next step, right? And I'm thinking 5 steps down the line. I'm thinking like I got my 5-year plan done, right? My 10-year plan, right? Like for the other stuff that this is going to lead into, right? And to me, in being an entrepreneur, you have to be able to see things in your mind and turn them into physical things. And like, it was funny, we were talking before we got started, like this was literally the first copy of this book that I ever got. Right. So this was literally...
That's your baby.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. Right? Like I remember getting this in the mail, and it was like, excuse my language, but oh shit, it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like this thing that lived in my head and on my computer screen for the last 9, 10 a year, right? Like 9, 10 months to a year is now a real fucking thing. Exactly. Like, it's the process though, right? Like, and that was the thing. And I also knew, like, I couldn't flop. Like, I wasn't gonna, if it was gonna be whack, then whatever. But I wasn't gonna flop on this. Like, and it was more so not about me, but it was about these kids. Like, our kids needed to see this in a way that they would respond to it and believe it and love it and feel something from it. Absolutely. That was what mattered to me more than anything else. But overall, like when you look at stuff like that, like you absolutely have to love the process, and the process ain't pretty.
Oh no, it's never pretty.
It's not pretty. It's not like
people, you gotta like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Listen, man, and you can't get too high with the good and too low with the bad. You know, one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I claim, I've been talking about my mom a lot, but my dad is that's my guy, right? Like that's my right hand. And playing sports.
Shout out to Pop.
Shout out to my dad. Shout out to Bob Burley. That's my man. But I remember in playing sports, and I played quarterback when I was coming up all the way through college.
So you already had leadership roles right there.
Well, I mean, yeah, you do, but you still got to manifest it though, right? But part of it was whether you throw 5 touchdowns in a game or 5 interceptions, right? You can't get too high with the good or too low with the bad. And I think that having that sort of framework for life has generally put me in a better space entrepreneurially, right? And I just definitely made that word up, I'm sure. But it put me in a better space to be an entrepreneur because the good and the bad happen based on your inbox, right? Based on the phone calls that you get or don't get, based on the responses of people that you get or don't get. Like, but you can't get too high, and you can't allow yourself to get too low. If you can stay even keeled and know where you're going and always see the vision through, then you'll always keep pushing forward and you always know what's next. Like, nobody can knock you off your pivot if you know what's coming next.
Right.
You know, and I think those are important things with being an entrepreneur, man. Like, you have to always continue to push forward, man. Like, it's always about the next moves, not the next move. It's about the next moves.
Right.
Right. Like, seeing this thing 2, 3, 5 years down the line and being like, yo, this is where I'm going to be, and I need to do stuff right now to put me in that place.
Right.
So that's a lot of it for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of good insight because, I mean, writing a book is a huge accomplishment.
It's an undertaking.
I mean, and there's a lot that comes with it. And one of the things I do want to get into is definitely the process of how you...
This is a bitch.
Yeah, I remember when we sat down and you told me about the process.
Yeah.
It's quite a story, and I
Yeah.
definitely want you to be able to share that.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely is a huge undertaking, but you got it done. And like I said, it's a huge accomplishment, and I just want to get into, you know, what inspired the book. What was the, you know, what was the conception of the book? What was the process like? And then definitely share that great story of how, you know, you got the very first copy and everything.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for some viewers out there that want to write a book or want to be authors or bloggers and things like that, you know, some people may not understand what it takes.
What all goes into it.
Yeah, or what all goes into it in the process.
Yeah, and my thing, too, like when I said this was my 10 p.m. through 3 o'clock in the morning project, I mean, you know, I have a family.
Right.
Like, I have a wife, I have a son, I have a job, I have... at this point in time, like, I had my corporate job that I was doing where I was traveling every other week. And I had a lot of other stuff going on too, right? Like, so by the time I had time to work on this, right, like I had to put my son down and then my wife would go to sleep because I didn't want this to be something that was taken away from their time.
Right.
They didn't ask for this. So I made sure that I did it after all that was done, and then I would be up, and then you know, by the time 3, like I remember there was absolutely a day where I had a flight, a 6 a.m. flight out to California the next day, and I was working on this thing from 11 o'clock at night, and I just stayed up and drove straight to the airport. Like, it just, to me, that's what it took.
Yeah, that sacrifice.
Like that's what it took. But the process of doing this whole thing, man, like
Or actually, how did you come up with it first?
The concept and the idea?
Yeah.
So it was more so from talking to my kids, you know, and I wanted to create something that was permanent. Like, we talk about those images on social media and those images on general media, right? Like, and I started doing a little bit of research and finding out if that was really the story. Because I don't personally, like, I don't like watching the news because it's depressing for me. Right. Right? Like, I like trying to keep myself in a positive mind frame, and that doesn't necessarily do it for me.
No, not at all.
So I try and keep myself in as positive a space as possible, and I just keep pushing from there. But looking at the process of how this happened, and I remember doing the research that I said, there was a statistic that pretty much drove everything home. And it was a study that was done by one of the local foundations a few years ago, and they said outside of sports, 86% of the stories about black men on local media are involving crime. 86% of stories about black men on like that to me, that's my action. Right. Like, that's my action. Right. We have to do something about that.
You gotta change
because like, and here's the other piece of why, right? Like, as an adult, like I said, I don't watch the news. I turn on Jamel and Mike, or I turn on whoever else I want to watch at that point in time. But that's also because I pay that bill. Right. I can turn the TV on whatever I want to turn on in my house. Right. As a kid, if my mom, and I remember how it was when I was a kid, like, if my mom wanted to watch the news, then the news was on. I could request to change the channel.
Right.
But the news was staying on if she wanted the news on, right? Like, that was what it was. She didn't look at it that way, and it wasn't like a negative from her part, but like she liked watching the news. That's kind of how she was raised and all of that type of stuff. But, you know, when you hear something like 86%, you know, we got to show different images, right? And it's about exposure for our kids.
Right.
So I wanted to create something that was permanent. And of course, could we have done a blog? Could we have done a digital magazine? Could we have done a periodical? Could we have made a newspaper? Yeah. We still can. But to me, making an actual physical book that they could put inside their book bag and have with them and read these stories that are handwritten, to me, that was more important because it was permanent. Right. And it could go with them wherever they went. And like, to be completely honest, I had a goal of getting 50 people with this, man. Like, I figured I could talk 50 people into this vision that I had, right? Like, and once again, that's the sales part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could talk 50 people into this. And I figured also, in order to get 50 people, I was going to have to reach out to 500 people.
And this is to get like the different people that you have in this book, because in this book you have you feature a lot of different people that who are young black and from Pittsburgh who are doing successful things, entrepreneurs, accountants, people in finance and things like that, to get the book together. So you know, getting those people together was definitely key.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, we had, you know, I had a goal of 50 people. That was kind of my drop dead number to do it. And, you know, I ended up getting 160 people who responded back about it.
Huge. So how did you go about even reaching out to those different people, for people who don't know?
Yeah, so for one, I had 50 initial people that I reached out to, and in them responding back, I had a submission package that I put together, which basically explained the story of why I'm doing this, what I needed from them, what the requirements were and expectations were, and what I needed, right? And also the other piece of it was there was what we called a Fab Five recommendation, right? A little bit of branding, a little bit of marketing to it. And that allowed people to nominate people that they thought fit the same bill that we were going for, right? Which was Black millennials, you know what I mean? Let's keep it real. Like, that's a space that we're in Pittsburgh where we need to see new representation of leadership. The city needs that.
Right.
The city's moving in different directions, and we need these people at the table. And we also don't need them leaving.
Right.
We don't. Right. Like, so let's show them in a different light. And also, there are people who will argue with you about these people not existing.
Right.
Right. Like, it's hilarious since this book has been done. There were people who would say, like, hey, I remember I was in a board meeting before where somebody literally got up and said with all the confidence in the world, I can't hire any black people to be at my company or on my board because they don't exist here. Any young black people, any black millennials, I cannot. And sometimes, like...
That's crazy to me that somebody actually said that.
It is, but sometimes if there's no literal counter narrative, you feel at liberty to say things like that. Right. So now it's funny because now people are like, boom.
Right.
You got that. There's 140 of them right there. And then there's way more too. Right.
Exactly.
So, but going back to the process of it, you know, like we had 160 people who responded, and I had to stop asking people because
you got more than enough.
Yeah. But like, and then on top of that, like this was self-funded. Well, the budget's over, right?
Yeah.
Like I got to stop.
Yeah.
And the good part was we also knew that we had enough going in that we could deliver that buy-in as well. So then we planned out photo shoots, right? Because as you can see, looking through the book, we had super dope photos. I had an amazing photographer who's done every important moment in my life. Shout out to Mecca Gamble. She is a fantastic and amazing person, and a person who I hold really close to me because she believed in this from the first conversation that we had and was like, B, tell me what you need and I'm there. And you can't buy that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But ended up getting all these different photo shoots together and trying to put all this different work together. And it was all manual email, man. This was me emailing, texting, but I reached out to the people from the Fab Five recommendations that people sent out, and then would send them the submission package, right? And then send the same thing, and then they would get their Fab Five, and if they were submitting, they would submit 5 more people, and then it kind of went from there and kind of turned into this thing that blew up quietly, right? Like, and it was always amusing to me because it's like, yo, if I thought it was going to be this big, I would have tried to go about it differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it ended up turning into something where it creates the impact, and ultimately, to me, also like the people in the book, they will always and forever hold especially in this one, like this first one.
Yes, the first.
They'll always hold a special place because they didn't have this to look at to want to be in the second one.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there were probably, I can't tell you how many times I got emails or talked to people in person where they're like, yo, I should have responded to that email.
Mm.
Right? Or I wish I had gotten that email. And it's like, fam, we didn't know each other. So it's
Yeah.
like, I can't reach out to you. And even if I did know you, sometimes it's like, yo, charge it to my head and not my heart.
Right.
That's all I'm asking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like there's a lot of representation that we can put forward,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this was just the first stab at it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So we had that opportunity and we set up photo shoots and we had people turning stuff in. And then the process of just the intricate process of putting the work together,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and it wasn't sexy. Like you said, like entrepreneurship isn't sexy. And
Right.
especially this process wasn't sexy.
Right.
So, she signed it. Somebody signed my book. And I'm going to let them know about that. I might send a text after we leave here. 'Cause I didn't know that they did that. But like the words on the page, like you see the words around the bodies, that's me pressing enter.
Right.
Right? Like this was manual.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I always laugh when I talk to people and it's like, well, when are you doing the next one? We want to do it soon, but I need a team.
Yeah.
Because I ain't doing this the same way I did it last
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like we need a team in order to be able to do this the right way this time too. And you know, and that it just started turning into pages, right? Like the pictures, then putting the words on the picture, and then putting the open letters in there. And the components of it, right? And I don't know if we discussed this, but the components of it, we had every single person talk about their path, right? And typically you'll have people talk about the bios, but I remember even in talking to my kids, they were like, yo, bios tell us a what of a person.
Mm-hmm.
We want the how and the why, right? Like I want
Right.
to know why you decided to go and out on a limb and be a chef.
Right.
Claudie Pierre, right? Like
Right.
I wanted to know how you got to a point where, like, what put you in a space where you would want to be fighting for the next generation with everything that you do in your career, Caleb Boyer. Like, what is the how to that? Like, how did you frame your life around that work?
Right.
And that was what was important for the kids. And then the next piece, of course, we have these great pictures. But my favorite piece of all of it is we had a handwritten open letter.
Mm-hmm.
And every single person wrote their own. And I only had 3 requirements for them. The first of which being I needed on plain white paper.
No
The
lines.
Second, no lines, man. And you see people who still didn't follow all the instructions. But you know, we got it close.
Right.
But I needed on plain white paper. I needed with black or blue ink. And I need you to be yourself, right? Like, be who you are. And it was so funny because people would be like, no, I need more instructions.
Right.
And I'm like, nah, be yourself. Like, take your creative license. Let this be the space where you write what you wish somebody gave you
Right.
in your childhood, right? Like, be that person for somebody. And the amazing, incredible part about all of this for me was I didn't tell people what to write.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to know the one thing that's in here more than anything else in all these open letters, if you flip through it?
What's that?
I love you.
Mm.
To the next generation, right? So
Right.
if it's like, what does that even mean for a young person?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you have these people who you look up to telling you that they love you and they want to see you win, then does that inspire you to want to win?
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like, all right, and then on top of that, it's representation, it's exposure,
Mm-hmm.
because you see all these things and what all these people are doing. And then it's hope.
Right.
Right? Like they're giving you not only their story and hope, but a story for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's deep and it's thick and it's a big,
Oh, yeah.
it's a big ass book.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's almost 300 pages.
Right.
So it was a dope process and it was fun in putting it together. And like I said, once I got to a point where it was just on me, that was where I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like once all the pictures were back and all of the words were edited and all that other stuff. And it was just like, all right, B, it's on you to get it done and put it together. Bet. That's easy.
Yeah.
Like if it's on me,
Yeah.
bet. Everything else is back. All right, cool, I got it. Right? And that was where I got into the point of just putting it together on my computer, compiling it, putting it all together, dealing with the structure of it. And you know, it wasn't easy, but nothing is.
Right.
I don't expect stuff to be, and I think that's
especially if it's something that's gonna be worth it.
Yeah. Like I don't expect things to be easy. I remember that was one of the other things I think with a lot of times with our kids and with us in general. It's like, oh, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So care about it being hard?
Right.
What do you mean it's hard? Go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it, but it's supposed to be hard.
Right.
You're supposed to get something out of it on the
Right.
back end of it, you know. And back to the story that me and you were talking about, you also got to fight for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like this was real close to not happening.
Really?
Yeah, this like literally, this wasn't a month before the book came out. I had a publishing partner pull out.
Oh yeah.
I had a publishing partner pull out. Basically said, hey, we got another big project. We can't do this.
Right.
It's a month. Like the book release was scheduled. We had already started releasing the marketing trailers
Mm-hmm.
and everything around the book coming out. And we're
Right.
getting like 10, 15,000 views. So people are like, yo, what is Yngblkpgh? And I'm like,
Yeah.
And then I get that email like, hey, by the way, we can't do this. And I'm like,
It's like this is bad timing right now.
there's no worse timing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, also, I think that goes back to your mental makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I could have just been like, oh my God, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like I still got time on the clock.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you
I'ma
go
keep
to
fighting.
the
Yeah,
clock
I'm gonna go
when
into
there's
the
no more
clock,
time.
and that's the only way you lose.
Right.
That's the only way I'm ever going to try and lose is the clock running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so I remember being at 3:00 in the morning, literally out in Monroeville at Kinko's,
Mm-hmm.
and having this whole entire book on my computer and being like, looking for different publishing partners and the prices weren't right, or they couldn't get it there in enough time, and I remember going to Kinko's and being like, yo, I just might have to take an L and just get this printed at Kinko's and just take a loss for the book release of it and then find something after.
Right.
And I also remember, this is at like 3, 4 in the morning, and I remember the dude at Kinko's, it's a crazy story. The guy at Kinko's, his printer wouldn't work, so he couldn't print off a copy. So I'm like, you know, forget y'all, whatever, and roll. Went
Right.
back home, and the whole time I'm going home, and I'm like, oh my God. And I had this vision of me like, hey, everybody, at the book release event, which we had at the August Wilson Center, right? Like, we
Yeah.
had people like dressed up. People
Yeah.
came for real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
I saw
like,
the
hey,
pictures of
pull out your phone. It's an ebook. Ha!
Yeah, it's like
Nah, that wasn't gonna work.
that's not gonna fly.
That wasn't going to work. Not for that crowd.
No.
But, you know, so I remember driving back home, and I had that vision, and I was like, it's not over.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I remember going back home, and I remember walking in the house, setting my book bag down, and pulling out my laptop, and I was going to set it down on the couch because I was going to wake up early and try and find something else. And I was like, no, open it back up one more time. And I remember being on the Google page that I was on because I was searching for printing presses.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this link that somehow I just miraculously hadn't clicked on.
Mm-hmm.
And I clicked on it, and I went there, and then I looked at the pricing, and the pricing looked good. I looked at the turnaround times. The turnaround times looked good.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the information about them. They looked reputable.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
This may be the one.
I ain't going to get too excited, right? Like, not too high, not too low, right? And I remember literally, I don't work at this company anymore, but I took off work the next day because I was that nervous.
Uh-huh.
About this call and them calling me back because I sent an email. I did like a perspective. I sent them the file or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, it'll cost this. We'll call you tomorrow."
Mm-hmm.
Bad, cool, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow at this point in time also was like 3-4 hours later. But I remember they called, and I remember being on the phone with the guy and being like, "Hey, yeah, so I have an event on," and of course I gave him Entrepreneur Secret. You know, give them a week in advance. If you don't know how they work, you don't give them like the day before your event. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I got an event on the 29th. I need them by the 28th. Nah, you ain't stressing me out like that.
Yeah.
So I
You
told
don't
him
want
I
that kind of
needed
stress
it.
in your life.
Yeah, so I told him I needed it, you know, a week in advance. And I still don't know if he even knows the story. And I also ended up in the process developing a publishing house as well through working with this printing press,
Mm-hmm.
right? Fast forward, we're on the phone. I'm like, can you get these done? I need this many books.
Mm-hmm.
Can you send a check? I'm like, can you get the books
Yeah.
done?
Can you get the books done?
Well, I think we can. Well, I need this many by this date and this many by this date. If you can't, tell me now and I'll move on.
Right. You need.
No, we can get it done. I need you to send me what everything looks like. And I sent them the money. We did the money transaction, whatever it was, and those books got there. We had books for the event. We sold out of every single daggone book at that event.
That's what's up.
And we've sold, since that point, we've sold 2,500 copies, man.
That's huge.
Yeah, man. Like, and it's a book.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's supposed to be a dying world.
Right.
But, you know, people need ways of, and people feel it, too. And I think that's one of the really good things about this project is people feel the love in it. You know what I mean? And the love that went into the pages. And we tried to make it as genuine as a book could feel. You know, and I think that was really, really important in the work, too. So it was just, that was God, man.
Absolutely.
I don't know any other way, right? Like opening back up my laptop and it's right there. And I'm like, click.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me see what this looks like.
Right.
So,
that's awesome. So what would you say to anybody that is trying to be an aspiring author to write their own book and publish their first book? What advice or kind of insight or inspiration can you give somebody that wants to take on an endeavor such as this one?
Think all the way through the process first, right? Like visualize the end game. That I'm a big end game person, right? Now my end game steadily changes, but I'm a big end game person, right? So if you have the story to be able to kind of talk through and you know on the different points, right? Like outline it and write it and put it all together and don't stop. Your story is going to save somebody.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And make it bigger than just you, right? I think a lot of times why people start writing their memoirs and never finish is because it's their memoirs about their life and they don't think it's important to anybody else. But a lot of times your story can be what changes somebody's life. Right? Like I did this to affect some kid. Like to me, the ultimate goal in writing this was if I had one kid who told me, you know what, B, because I read Julius Boatwright's story, I now know that I can do it.
Right.
I can do this. I now know that this is possible for me. To me, one kid, job well done.
Right, absolutely.
And what's even crazier is I got that. I woke up Sunday morning. The book came out on Saturday. I woke up Sunday morning and had 3 text messages saying just that from parents, anything. Like I remember one of my buddies, he's also featured in a project. He told me, he was like, yo, I need you to bring me over another copy of the book. And I'm like, well, they're all sold out. A week.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and he was like, yeah. My son kept reading my story and he ripped my page right out. And I'm like, that's such a good thing. I was like, can you make a Facebook post about that or something? Like, that's such a good thing. But, you know, people felt good about it, man. You know, and to people who make it bigger than you. Right. And find people there are a lot of people who are willing to help. You know, and if you can find a way to develop your market or develop your story to a point where people want to hear it more, and show like the crazy part about this, and given the book work was already done, but we came out with those marketing trailers and they were doing numbers, right? Like 15,000, 20,000, like just, so there was a need for it. But I just think that find and work and use the internet. I learned how to publish a book from Google.
Right.
And YouTube.
It's crazy to think
I learned how to put a book together from Google and YouTube and talking to a couple different people. The information's there.
Right.
There's no excuse for not having the information.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like if you want to market your story or tell your story the way that you know it needs to be told, then do just that. Commit to that and commit to it.
Right.
That's the other big thing. So I would say, like, you know, you have to commit to finishing. Because if you don't, ain't nobody gonna hold you to it. You know, the good thing that I had with this is I had 140 different accountability partners.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people like, yo, what happened to my photo shoot?
Yeah. So you got a lot of people putting the pressure on you a little bit.
But it wasn't like they didn't put the pressure on me, but I knew that they
people you had to be accountable to.
They trusted me with their brands, right? Like I got big deal people in here. And they trusted me as BrIan. They didn't trust Yngblkpgh with their brand. They trusted BrIan with their brand.
Right. One of the things I actually noticed, you actually got Rob Wilson in this book, who was actually featured on this show as well.
Yeah, that's
so
my guy,
you got some big people in here.
Yeah, Rob's a big deal. And Rob, like, you know, Rob didn't need to do this.
Right.
It's not like Rob was doing it because it was going to be a good look for Rob, right? Like, or not because it would have been just like me putting Rob on. Like, Rob's on TV every week.
Exactly.
Rob's doing his thing. Rob's one of my brothers that I'm proud of every single day, and I make sure that I tell him every single time that I talk to him about
He's the man. He's the man.
But, like, you know, you have those opportunities, and you got to just keep pushing forward, right? Like, I couldn't disappoint on that.
Right.
Because then there wouldn't be volume 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Exactly.
Right? Like, so you have that opportunity, too.
So where do you see yourself going in the future? Like, so you're an author now. Do you see yourself writing more books, or do you see yourself more going to being a speaker? Where do you see yourself going in the next few years?
Those are all good, fun arenas that I'm already playing in.
Right.
Right? Like writing more books, doing the whole motivational public speaking thing. It's fun, man.
Yeah.
Like, I like the stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I like the stage. So that's not a bad thing. But also in the space of this city and in the space for us, we need more.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And we can do more.
And we can do more, and we just need to, like, it was amazing for me, this process of even sitting down in some of the rooms that I've been pulled into about it, and people just saying things like, oh, it had to take you forever to do this. It's like, no.
How long did it take?
The total process was 9 months, and that's just me.
Literally a baby, 9 months right there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But, like, the idea, I would say, came to fruition probably about two years and some change ago. But, you know, you have an opportunity to just, you know, I feel like I'm one of those people that when God puts something in your head, it's for you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he's put a couple different things in my head. And, you know, I think he also realizes this now, too. The worst thing that could have ever happened with somebody like me is something work. Right? Like, this working, now my training wheels are off. Now it's like whatever gets put in my head, there's no thought of, oh, that's too big, or oh, that's too much, or oh, I don't know if that's for you. He put it in my head.
Right.
And he put it in my head for a reason, so now I'm going to go get it, right? Like, there's no stopping, there's no stumbling, there's none of that. Like, I'm going to go get it and make it happen because it's going to benefit other people, and it's going to benefit us in this city.
Right.
You know, Pittsburgh has a lot that it can offer to a lot of people and a lot that it can offer to us. It's just a matter of them feeling like we're there to be able to offer it and holding people accountable and doing more, right? So doing stuff like this continuously and putting the city in a better light as an attraction city and not just a retention city, then we have that opportunity too. So
right. So where's the best places that people can purchase this book right now?
So the book right now is at Barnes & Noble. It is on Amazon, but my favorite place for people to purchase it, because people always leave like notes and stuff, is off of the website, which is www.Yngblkpgh.com. So that's the title of the book. It is our book website. You can follow us there off of our social media and everything else like that. But that's my favorite place, because that's what we keep up to date with all the stuff that we've been doing, man. And it's been 6 months since, right? Like, I think officially, what's today? The 28th. We don't want to talk dates, do we?
No, it doesn't matter.
It will be 6 months officially tomorrow.
Okay.
Since the book has come out. So, you know, we got work to do, but we're doing a lot, you know, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing, and I'm even more proud of the work that's going to be coming on the back end. Like, we got some stuff. This one.
Anything that you can disclose? Any exclusives here that you can disclose to us right now?
I think it's important for us as a people to start moving between the silos.
Okay.
Right? Like, us as Black millennials, I think we live in these silos that were kind of handed down to us as well. I think it's really important that we start moving between those different silos, because that's going to help us accumulate power, right? And the decision-making power and the ability to be more. And we're going to be doing some intentional things about going in between those silos and being a safe space that people can come to and be at and build at, that anybody, that is for anybody, right? Like, as long, and my cool thing about this whole project and this whole work, right? Like, you know, we ain't got to agree on everything. You know, we don't have to. That's not a requirement of anything. But one thing I think that we all can agree on is that we need to do more for these kids, you know, and they need to see us more, and they need to be out more with us, and we need to be in front of them more, and we need to be more supportive of each other, and definitely more supportive of them.
Absolutely.
So that's some stuff that we got going on. We got some stuff coming in 2018, but, you know, we gotta. It's the work, man. It's the work.
It's the grind. It's the hustle.
It's the hustle. It's the hustle, and it's, you know, you see real fast, and it's an everyday thing. You know, like, you could have a good morning and a bad afternoon. but it's the everyday thing of it and knowing that you got tomorrow to come back and fight with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's kind of continuously my thing. Like, all right, I ain't dead.
Right.
So I'm gonna keep pushing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or I got another meeting about this. Somebody's, you know, I got some funding about this. Somebody's, you know, and all that other different stuff too. So it's just a matter of continuously pushing forward, man. So
awesome. So, like, what we'd like to do at the end of these episodes is, what would like be the message that you want to say to yourself a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Kind of making this like a video capsule, if you will. To say that you know, a message that you want to say to yourself. Maybe you might be pursuing something at that point in time, and you want to kind of just give yourself a little foot in the ass, if you will. So what would you say that message would be, and what is the legacy that you want to leave for yourself?
That's a big question, but it's an easy answer. Make sure you keep Britain Jackson first. Like, your family means more to you than anything else in the world, and make sure that with everything that you have going on and everything that's going to be coming for you, that you always keep them first. And, you know, that'll keep you grounded, keep them and God and everything that you got going on, and you'll be all right. You know what I mean? I think that when it comes down to that, from a professional stance, keep fighting. Keep fighting. You're a fighter. You were born with what it takes. Don't doubt yourself. You know, and I think that's one of the big things for all entrepreneurs and people even going to go into entrepreneurship. You battle with yourself.
Yeah, it's you versus you.
It's you versus you. Every single time, and if you win that battle every day, if you win that battle, everything else is going to start falling in the line. Everything else is going to start falling in the line. But, you know, keep God and your family first, and make sure that you're taking care of that, and make sure that you don't let Jackson dunk on you. By that time, he'll be like 6. My son is like the height of a 4-year-old, and he's 2. So, yeah, make sure, don't let him sneak and dunk on you. That's
awesome.
my future advice.
Cool. So, and where's the best place people can contact you right now, whether they want to work with you or want to...
Oh, man, social media. I'm really active on social media, so everything is at Yngblkpgh, Yngblkpgh. My personal social media is at _ just call me B, which is JUSCALLMEB. And but social media is probably the best way. If you want to get on the Yngblkpgh email list, go to the website and do that through the website. We send stuff out pretty regularly. And yeah, those are probably the biggest ones, man. Like, we've done this whole thing through social media, the whole thing. So it's about us. It's our time.
Absolutely.
I'm not hiding that. It's our time,
right?
You know, so it's about really making the moves that are required to make. So,
right, absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate you being on the show.
My man, I appreciate
As always, I always am very thankful for people that, you know, accept the invitation to be able to come on, for us to be able to do something bigger.
Yeah, man.
And be able to, you know, share your work on this platform.
Love the work that you're doing, man.
Appreciate
Keep it up.
Appreciate
pushing forward, man. And anything we can do to help you, let me know.
Absolutely. I mean, we're here to work together and collab on some more things for sure.
Let's do it.
So for everybody that's listening and watching it, I definitely appreciate every one of you. If you guys have any comments or concerns or any advice or feedback, definitely leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And now that you know what Brian does with his 24 hours, I want to know what you do with your 24 hours.